Hi guys, and welcome to this video. I hope you're all doing well. I know I haven't uploaded in a while, so I'm really grateful to those that have stuck around and continue to subscribe to my channel and watch my videos. For today's case, guys, we are going to be covering a murder case, and it is the first on my channel because we are going to be going firstly to the country of Georgia, and secondly, this is an LGBTQ murder investigation case, so it's quite different to some of the cases I've covered before. So let's go. So for today's case, guys, we are going to be going to the small country of Georgia. So Georgia, for those that don't know, is a country that borders Armenia, borders Russia as well. It has a lot of still of Russian and ex-USSR influence, so from the Soviet era as well. I almost want to say the country is under a semi-dictatorship. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you a little bit of a background into one of the actual political parties that has a lot of control within Georgia, to give you guys a kind of idea of how it led up to this murder case, which is actually not a political murder case at all, but it kind of gives a background and had a lot of influence within the case that takes place today. The victim of today's case is called Kesaria Abramidze. Kesaria was born on the 18th of August 1987 in Georgia, and little is actually known about her upbringing as a child or family background, etc. We start to learn more about Kesaria from 2014, which is when Kesaria did actually her transition from male to female. It's said that before she actually did her transition from male to female, that she did what's called a sperm freeze in another country outside of Georgia, because this is not something I think that she was able to do legally within Georgia. So she went and did what's called a sperm freeze outside of Georgia, which is essentially to preserve your semen if you're a male, so that if you then decide to have kids later on in life, once you've done your transition from male to female, you can still essentially use your semen and go on to have children. So that's where we start to learn about Kesaria. Is from 2014 when she did her actual transition. After she did her transition, she actually went on to do very well career-wise. She's been in a lot of television series in Georgia. She actually became a TV host in Georgia. So she's somewhat, I want to say, of a celebrity, or was a celebrity in actual fact, that was actually really well respected, did really well. She had over 500,000 Instagram followers, so did very well on social media as well. And there wasn't really anything controversial about Kesaria. I mean, I want to say, apart from the fact she was transgender, which to a lot of people that is something very normal in everyday life. However, in Georgia, she was actually the first person publicly to come out as a transgender person, which in Georgia is still a country which is very, I want to say, insular and reserved and conservative from a lot of aspects. The Orthodox Church, Christian Church, has a lot of prominence in Georgia, and their ideals are all about family life, as in not just family life, but very traditional family life, which means like mum, dad, kids. It doesn't involve same-sex marriages or same-sex relationships or people being, gay, transgender or LGBTQ. That is not what the Orthodox Church is about in Georgia. Kesaria actually went on to participate in a contest called the Transgender International Contest in 2018, and I think she won it. I can't remember, but she definitely partook in it, which was a very well-known transgender kind of beauty pageant contest at the time, and her prominence kind of just grew. She just did really, really well career-wise. She had her, in brackets, shit together. Like, she was doing really well. But at the same time, we still have to remember, guys, that we have, this kind of, she's in a very insular, conservative, traditional country at the same time, where being transgender is not accepted. And it's quite astonishing, actually, that she had such a good TV career and career generally as an influencer as well, given that she was transgender in Georgia, which actually for Georgia it's astonishing. It's very, very unusual, and we'll learn more about that. So Kesaria goes on to do the Transgender International Transgender competition in 2018. She's continuing with her TV shows, goes on, as I said, to become a TV host, etc. And along the way, she meets a gentleman called Becca Gianni. Now, at this time, I would say Kesaria is around the age probably of, I'd say, about 35. So we have to go back. Well, we're jumping now from 2018 to around 2022, I want to say. So yeah, Kesaria's around 34, 35 years old. And she starts dating a gentleman called Becca Gianni. And at this time, Becca is probably around the age of 24. So he's quite a bit younger. Now, it's said that within their relationship, Becca was the type of person that was quite controlling, demanding, aggressive, physically, verbally type of person with Kesaria. It's said that within their relationship, this has come from people that know them, neighbours, friends, family, that there was a lot of arguments between the couple. It's like, you know, the couple got back together, broke up, got back together, broke up, etc., etc. And there was a point in April 2024 where Kesaria was like, I'm done with this relationship now. I've had enough. I don't want to continue with this. Like, it's too much, right? So at that point in April, I believe she did leave the country for a bit. She left Georgia for a bit and went somewhere else in Europe to kind of get away from him, have a break, generally from the relationship, from everything, for I'd say 2 or 3 months. And then she later, about 3 months later, decided to come back to Georgia again. So Kesaria comes back to Georgia. We're now nearing the summer of 2024, and during this time there was a lot of protests going on in Georgia. So this is only last year. There was a lot of protests going on in Georgia because of a lot of political issues that were going on due to a political movement or organisation that I want to say called the Georgian Dream. Now, when I read the name of this political party, I thought, wow, I've seen some political parties that have, I want to say, very stupid, idiotic names. This one, I thought, what the hell is this? Georgian Dream. This is a really weird one. Now, the Georgian Dream political party is run by a billionaire, and I believe his first name is Badzina. I can't remember his surname, but if I can find it, guys, I'll pop it on the screen for you. And he is a Georgian billionaire. So he's got, obviously, a lot of money. He's set up this political party in Georgia. It said that he had a lot of, or was influenced, was influenced by Russia and Russia's political ideologies, I want to say. Now, as we have seen of late with Russia and the way Russia is run by Vladimir Putin, it's not a very good situation. And one thing that is very specific to Russia is that women have very few legal rights in Russia, and this is something I've covered previously in other videos on my channel as well, and it is something that is more common within ex-USSR Soviet Union countries, where women's rights are limited, I want to say, or non-existent, to put it bluntly with you, okay? When it comes to violence towards women and things like that, women are literally not protected, okay? Vladimir Putin, for those that don't know, is someone who decriminalised domestic violence in Russia, which essentially means that if a woman is attacked by a man, nothing happens. When I say nothing happens, guys, I literally mean nothing. I mean no arrest, I mean nothing. The man just goes about his daily life, goes to work the next day, and that's it. So this Georgian billionaire, Badzina, founded the Georgian Dream political party. He essentially was very influenced by the ideologies that Vladimir Putin has, and that is not a good thing. We're going to see now, guys, how much influence this political party has on people being able to actually live their lives in Georgia. So, as I said, Kesaria had come back to the country around the summer of 2024, so back to Georgia. And at the same time, we've got this political party run by Badzina, Georgian Dream, that is coming to prominence. So the whole sort of process of Georgian Dream is, as I was saying a bit earlier on in the video, guys, and I actually mentioned the Orthodox Church as well in Georgia. So the Orthodox Church have a lot of involvement in the politics of Georgia and in this political party, Georgian Dream, right? I think it's very similar actually in Russia, where the Orthodox Russian Church are very involved in the politics of the country because of these traditional ideals that they want to instill in the population. So essentially, Georgian Dream, their whole ideology is that they just hate LGBTQ. They do not allow same-sex marriages, and any propaganda that's to do with LGBTQ, being transgender or anything is basically banned. Like, you can be arrested for this and sent to prison. And then they have the backing of the Orthodox Church in Georgia, which again promotes these ideologies of mum, dad, 2 kids, and that's it. No homosexuality, no LGBTQ, etc, etc. You can't do that in public. You can't hold someone's hand in public if you're of the same sex. You can't do that kind of thing in Georgia. It's still a country which is so backwards with these types of ideologies, to be honest with you. And Georgian Dream, they were really coming to prominence. So you've got people that are really in support of Georgian Dream in 2024, and then you've got a lot of protests where people are against Georgian Dream. And Georgian Dream started to have a lot of problems, not so much because actually of the LGBTQ situation, which is quite shocking, because in a lot of mainland European countries, people would be really pissed off with a political party like this if they're anti-LGBTQ. But Georgian Dream started to wind up another section of the population and try and instill restrictions which would affect people's livelihood. I know you guys at this stage are thinking, okay, how is this connected to Kesaria? You've got to bear with me on this, guys. Obviously, I've mentioned that they're anti-LGBTQ and they're a political party. Kesaria is transgender. But you're going to see how all of this is going to end up linking back into each other, okay? So essentially, people are, there's people that aren't happy because obviously they're anti-LGBTQ. And also there was a lot of people that wanted Georgia to join the European Union in 2022. And because of Georgian Dream, it was actually preventing Georgia from joining the European Union, because the European Union has very strict legislation to be able to join the European Union. You can't just join. It doesn't work like that. There's very strict legislation to be able to come into the European Union. And the European Union, as a lot of people may know, it gives a country a lot of access to different things that you wouldn't normally have access to. So it's quite an important step, to be honest, right? Anyway, Georgian Dream was preventing this because already they had the whole anti-LGBTQ thing going on. But then they made the decision that anyone in Georgia who's got like a business, could be any type of business, and they're receiving more than 20% of their funding from a foreign source, so it could be from another country, like from France, anywhere like that, they must declare that funding. Now, obviously, when you run a business, you declare your funding, but it wasn't so much about declaring the funding for tax purposes, to avoid tax evasion and things like that. It was because this political party don't agree with certain foreign processes that other countries have, like the US. They're a bit like Russia, where they have a lot of issues with what other countries do. They think those countries are suspect and all of this kind of thing. So this political party, Georgian Dream, was like, if you receive more than 20% of your funding for your business in Georgia, you must declare that it has come from a specific foreign source, and it's seen as kind of like a foreign kind of issue, like dodgy thing, basically. It's really weird. So it's where if you're running a business, you're receiving these funds, you're then looked at in a really weird way, in a different way, because you're receiving funds from another country, even though the funds aren't fraudulent or anything. Like, it's just that this political party wants to know what people are doing and that they shouldn't get funding from elsewhere and all of this. It's just ridiculous, basically. A lot of the population then came out to protest about this because they were like, what the hell? So Georgian Dream basically said that if you don't declare that you've received these funds from a foreign source, or you've declared funds but you haven't declared that they are actually from a foreign source, you get a $10,000 fine and you'll get a prison sentence, right? So it's not like someone's trying to do tax evasion so they won't declare it. It's like, if it's coming from another country, and even if you do declare it, this political party will look at you like there is something wrong going on, because why are you receiving funds from another country when actually when people run businesses, guys, it's actually very, very common that people will have different sources that invest within the business internationally. This is like, part of everyday life in the times that we live in now. But this political party, Georgian Dream, did not view it like that. They viewed it like something that's dirty or disgusting if you're getting funds from elsewhere, and why are you getting funds from outside of the country, and all of this. So then you got a lot of people protesting. This was within 2024. There was so many protests going on, so many issues, and it was on the news a lot actually, but I think a lot of people didn't understand why those protests were occurring. And this was essentially because of this political party, Russian Dream, that had all these stupid ideologies. They essentially wanted to run the country almost like Kim Jong-un in North Korea, and impose that people basically have so many limited legal rights. And so many people were pissed off because of that. They were pissed off because they knew the country's not going to be able to join the European Union, which then limits, people's rights internationally and all of this. So there was a lot of problems going on because of that. Essentially, what happened and how this linked back to Kesaria, bearing in mind that Kesaria was very well known, she was actually a celebrity as well, is that she, as I said earlier, guys, she'd broken up with Becca Gianni. So that relationship was over since April 2024. And then she'd gone off for about 3 months or so. She'd come back to Georgia around the summer of 2024. This is when all these protests are going on with Georgian Dream and all of this. So at that time, we've got obviously all this, financial thing going on with Georgian Dream and the LGBTQ thing, and then we've got the Orthodox Church coming out in support of Georgian Dream, and there was so much tension in the country. Obviously, Kesaria is transgender, and tension is mounting, and Kesaria being a public figure, she's at risk. Even though she's someone that is respected, she's a TV presenter, she's an influencer, etc. We're in Georgia here, guys. This is not the UK, this is not France, this is not Germany or Belgium. This is Georgia. And it's not because you are a well-respected celebrity TV host that will still protect you from being in danger. It does not stop that at all, because there are people, as I said, that dislike and do not understand or respect the fact that people have the right to be transgender. And bear in mind that this political party was all going on, and essentially what happened is the political party Georgian Dream, they won or put out a law, I want to say, in September of 2024 that, essentially you couldn't do a medical transition to be transgender. It was something that was banned and now illegal in Georgia in 2024. You couldn't have a same-sex relationship. You couldn't have a same-sex marriage. You couldn't discuss anything that's to do with being homosexual or gay or transgender. Like, we're talking 2024 in Georgia, a European country. These are the things that were going on last year, and that's still going on. And they passed this whole law, right? And at that point, I think Kesaria could feel that there's a switch. There's something now changed, because these are laws that have now been passed. It's not like saying, okay, look, you're in a country that doesn't respect this, but you still have legal rights. There is no legal rights, because the law says that people like Kesaria basically don't have any legal rights, which is something that is very difficult, I think, for people who aren't within a country like that to understand that type of appalling dictatorship process. So this law got passed on the 17th of September 2024. On the 18th of September 2024, we're now going back, guys, to Becca Gianni. And you guys remember that I said that Kesaria had an on-off relationship with Becca Gianni. That man was a bit all over the place. It's not really even known what he did as a job, etc. He was someone who didn't really have his shit together. And to be honest, Kesaria was on point. She had a good career. She was doing well. He was all over the place, right? So for some reason, Becca Gianni has gone round to visit Kesaria on the 18th of September. Remember this, guys, the day after this law has been passed in Georgia that bans everything that's LGBTQ, transgender, etc., right? This is around 7 p.m. on the 18th of September, okay? Now, obviously, we know that Gianni and Kesaria's done with him. This man is very aggressive. He's been physically violent before, etc. I think she was living in like an apartment kind of building. So he's gone into the building, and because it's an apartment kind of block, there's CCTV in the building. And this is how we know what time he went there and all of this kind of thing. So he's gone to the building at 7 o'clock on the 18th of September to see Kesaria. And most people think, oh gosh, like he's gone around there to cause trouble, another argument, da-da-da-da-da. He rocks up, he has got a knife with him, and it's quite a big knife at that. There are different storylines as to exactly the preciseness of what happens next. But essentially, he goes on to stab Kesaria, and there is a mixture of people saying that it's between 28 times and 50 times. Now, either way, that is a huge number. You know, whether it's 28 or 50 or somewhere in the middle, that is just, it's clearly a premeditated murder. Kesaria is obviously screaming and the neighbours can hear it. So they do alert the police. But I'm like, if someone's being stabbed, bearing in mind you're the next door neighbour of this person. So, you know, when you're the next door neighbour of someone and you've lived there for years, guys, you kind of, even if you're not close with that person, you kind of know like who comes in and out of the building. You hear people next door, and you would think that if you can hear screaming and shouting, like I know myself in the UK, if someone hears screaming and shouting in the street even or next door, they're already going to call the police, never mind anything else. But when you hear someone screaming, especially if they've been stabbed, I can only imagine that that's extremely loud. You would think to immediately call the police. It's not even like, oh, I'm watching my TV and I'll just wait and da-da-da. And, or you would come out into the corridor and knock on the person's door and be like, are you okay? Are you okay? But this is not what happened. It's like the fact that she got stabbed that many times and no one's come into the corridor and it's taken X amount of time for the police to come is unbelievable. Again, it just demonstrates the negligence and poor attitude of this, the political people running this country. It's absolutely shocking and horrendous. About 15 minutes later, so around 7:15, Gianni is seen walking out of the building, going through the corridors in the building, etc., because obviously it's on CCTV, so you can see the whole timeline. So he's only max in the building for 15 minutes, and most people would think, already on CCTV, obviously when you look back you think, okay, you went in at 7, you came out at 7:15, like that is super quick if you're going to visit someone. It could be that you're going to visit someone, guys, and you're just dropping off something for them super quick, whatever. But I mean, if this is someone's ex, I wouldn't think, oh, it's you going in for 10-15 minutes and coming out. Like, that doesn't seem realistic in itself. And then he's leaving the building at 7:15, and apparently I think he's then tried to get to the airport, the nearest airport, right? So apparently the next day the police catch him, and I'm thinking, listen, I can't believe in my mind that a woman could be stabbed over 28 times or more and it took the police 24 hours to catch the murderer. If this was London and someone's been stabbed 28 times, let me tell you, it will not take 24 hours. They won't be looking for that person for 24 hours because something would have happened or someone would have reported them or something. It'll take max 2 hours if that. It's not going to take 24 hours, and this man's got time to get to the airport in an Uber and this and this. This is absolutely ridiculous. And I just think, guys, right, if I was a neighbour and I can hear my neighbour next door being constantly abused or beaten or something, I would feel so bad if I did not interject. Even just ask the person, are you all right? Is there anything I can do? Even if the person is like, no, I'm fine or whatever, you would still always keep an eye out for them, right? Because that is like being a good human and common sense. So is very difficult for me, guys, to accept and understand. I mean, I don't accept it, but to comprehend how this woman could be stabbed that many times, and how someone who has already put a woman in a situation of domestic violence, he'd physically attacked her previously over a number of months, that this is someone who hadn't been prosecuted for domestic violence already. Again, if this was the UK, there are laws which were introduced around 2010, where a man can be prosecuted, or a woman for that matter, can be prosecuted if there is evidence of domestic violence. You don't necessarily now need for the victim to say, yes, they have done this to me. If there is enough evidence to prove that someone has done that to you, that the perpetrator's done that, they can actually still be prosecuted. So in the UK, we are fortunate enough to have laws. I know laws aren't like that everywhere, but this is a case where, for example, there are no laws like this in Georgia, and this is how we're getting to events like this. Now, we then get to the court case, and it said in the court case, I mean, the court case started not long after the events of September 2024, but the whole proper full-on court case was like December 2024. And Becca Gianni's solicitor has kind of said, like, you know, there were different, how can I say this, like, different things stated as to why the murder was committed. So the whole premeditation of the murder, it was said that it was not gender-based, it was based on the fact that Kesaria was transgender, and that was the reasoning behind the murder. And it was more motivated by the fact that this political party, Georgian Dream, had passed this law against transgender and LGBTQ community the day before Kesaria's murder. So that was promoting the discrimination and hatred against LGBTQ community, right? So essentially, the tribunal said that they thought that Becca Gianni was motivated by this law that had been passed the day before to commit this murder against Kesaria. And so the tribunal's like, this is like a transgender-based, like, murder case, basically. Like, Becca Gianni committed this because he hates transgender people, and that's why he committed the murder. And his solicitor tried to say that that wasn't the motivation behind it. And then, you know, the tribunal's like, you know, the acts of violence were exceptionally cruel towards Kesaria, and da-da-da-da-da. Like, it wasn't a situation where the tribunal was actually, you know, even though we're in a country which, you know, LGBTQ literally don't have any legal rights, the way that the tribunal was still trying Becca Gianni on trial was intense. They were literally going for him, and they were like, yeah, you did do this because you didn't like the fact that Kesaria was transgender. I mean, to be honest, it's like, why, if he didn't like the fact that she's transgender, why was he with her for 2 years, from 2022 to 2024? Like, he's an idiot then if he was with someone who he doesn't like the fact they're transgender, and he knew she's openly transgender. It's like, why are you with her? It's like ridiculous. But essentially, they tried to say, the tribunal, that yes, you committed this murder because you didn't like the fact she's transgender. And then a lot of people obviously said that because of this political party, Georgian Dream, that pushed, sort of mentally motivated Becca Gianni to commit the murder more because they are anti-LGBTQ, all of this stuff going on, right? Anyway, he was convicted of a life sentence, and so, you know, he got life in prison. His solicitor, called Georgie, I can't remember the surname because it's got such a long surname as well, but essentially said he's going to appeal the case because he doesn't agree with the fact that the acts that were committed were exceptionally cruel or something. It's like, well, you stabbed someone over 28 times. What do you call exceptionally cruel? Like, do you know what I mean? And then on top of that, I've noticed, guys, actually, this is often the case in murder cases, right? Where the perpetrator, Becca Gianni, so when it was like that final statement he needed to be present in court, etc., his solicitor, Georgie, was like, oh no, my client can't attend. He's not emotionally and psychologically fit to attend court. And it's like, well, you were fit and well to stab someone 28 times and go around their house and beat them and all of this. but you're not fitting well to stand in a court. So instead, Beccajani wrote this feeble letter to the courtroom for his solicitor to read out, essentially. His solicitor essentially said that he's going to appeal Beccajani's life sentence. I mean, Beccajani has stabbed a woman 28 times. If this was the US, he would have been electrocuted on the electric chair. It would have been death sentence direct. It's like, mate, you're lucky that you've got a life sentence. Do you know what I mean? If this was Japan, China, UAE, US, you would just, especially if it's UAE or China or somewhere, you'll get tortured before you even get that death sentence, mate. You're lucky that you're sitting in a cell for the next however many years till you die. Do you know what I mean? But it's really sad that this woman, who was only 37 years old, lost her life needlessly because of political parties which were allowed to go about their business. Whereas again, in other countries like the UK, you'll have people that are leading political parties which are overtly racist or encouraging gender-based violence or things like that. They would be arrested and they will receive prison sentences. These are things that you cannot do in the UK, guys, because it's actually a criminal offence to do that here. So it's unbelievable that there are countries where these things are still allowed, and it's a European country which essentially has failed women on all levels so that they cannot go about their daily life as they should be able to. It's completely unacceptable. When I was actually doing the research for this video, because I actually started looking into this when this case took place last year in 2024, and I started looking into research more in regards to LGBTQ rights, transgender rights in countries and murder cases. And one country that started coming up a lot in regards to transgender based violence was actually Jamaica. And there are a lot of countries, guys, that people perceive as very modernized, I want to say, very forward thinking, advanced, or have a kind of relaxed vibe. And this is the proof that until you've essentially lived in that country, it's very difficult sometimes to actually fully understand what goes on in a country. I always say it's not because you go on holiday somewhere that you fully understand what it is that actually goes on within the country as someone who actually lives under the laws of the country. And Jamaica is one that has very poor legal rights, if any, for LGBTQ community and transgender community. And homosexuals are treated very poorly in Jamaica. It's actually, I think, because I'm quarter Jamaican, within Jamaican community is actually something that people know of well, but outside of Jamaican community, a lot of people actually don't know that this goes on. They're like, oh, I've been to Jamaica, it's cool, it's relaxed. It's like, well, you need to look at everything. Don't just look at, I've been there for a 2-week holiday, it's a nice hot country, it's chilled out. No. You need to look at everything, because it's not because it's fun for you and you're on a sunbed for 2 weeks there that it's nice for everyone who lives in the country. Not just Jamaica, but there's lots of countries, guys, where people's human rights are limited. And this is why I do these types of videos, to open people's eyes. You could be living next to a country where people literally don't have any human rights. It's just absolutely shocking. Anyway, guys, I will leave this video here. As always, feel free to comment what your thoughts are. And if you are from Georgia or Russia, for example, another country that has similar laws like this, again, please do let me know your thoughts on how things are within these countries while living there as well. Anyway, guys, I'll leave this video where it is, and I will see you again very soon for another one.